What is next for WWE has been the question ever since SummerSlam ended and the Beast Slayer, Seth Rollins, slayed the Beast. So at least you picked a pretty good nickname, Mr. Universal Champion. But there's only one way to find out, and that is to go through last night's episode of Raw, where of course WWE laid their cards out on the table as in what's in store over the next few weeks. My name is Simon Miller. This is WhatCulture Wrestling. This is also the finger of power. It's time to up those doubts. Raw did indeed start with Seth Rollins coming out and showing off his brand new shiny belt and thanking the fans for helping him slay the Beast. The fans then started to chant Beast Slayer, but when you start to chant Beast Slayer in unison, it sounds like you're saying Beast Layer, which is also kind of true because Brock Lesnar had to lay down for Seth Rollins. The OC of all people interrupted because AJ Styles wanted to have a match against Rollins to prove who the better champion was. And that was fine because who doesn't want to see Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles, although we'll get to it later. Rollins accepted, Gallows and Anderson then pretended they were going to jump him, but they didn't. And that was that. It was over quite quickly. It was a little bit like nothing, but who cares? Set up the show? Fine. While I really enjoyed what happened next on one level, when you take it in context, and you remember everything that's happened over the last few weeks, down. It started with the Street Profits who were being their usual entertaining selves until Sami Zayn turned up with some hard truths because he was saying, look, you may be all peaches and cream now, but eventually Raw and SmackDown and the main roster and the fans are going to wear you out. And then he started giving us some examples, like number one, Seth Rollins. He used to be cool, and now he's out there pandering to the crowd. And two, look at Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch was a real and a gritty and a fiery character at first, and now she is just manufactured nonsense. The Street Profits then said, well, it doesn't happen to anybody. Look at Samoa Joe. And Sami said, oh, well, Samoa Joe, that's a perfect example. And of course, Samoa Joe was standing behind Sami Zayn. Joe said he would give Zayn the chance to prove that he was more than just Kevin Owens' water boy by challenging him to a match in the ring. They went out for the match in the ring, and Samoa Joe won in around about 32 seconds. Just went out behind Sami and choked him out. Now, don't get me wrong, this was awesome, but it's just what WWE continues to do with Samoa Joe over and over. He will absolutely destroy some fool, then he'll be put in a feud, he loses the feud, then he'll absolutely destroy some fool, he'll be put in a proper feud, and he will lose the feud. And now it's got to the point, I realise that there's no point in me investing in this because WWE never does anything. Afterwards, Samoa Joe did get on the microphone and said while he has forgiven Roman Reigns for accusing him of being an attempted murderer, he doesn't forgive the fans, and he never will. Even though, Joe, I'm pretty sure no fan ever accused you of nothing, but you're great, you do you. Tying into my point as well, start bringing it down. You know what it is. It is the Sami tally, and thank goodness I introduced this when I did, because ever since then, I haven't been wrong once. That's nothing on me. It was just quite obvious watching WWE TV how they see Sami Zayn, and once more he had a match, and once more he lost clean, again, really, really, really quickly. I mean, what even is Sami Zayn these days? Just a dude that turns up and loses. I also don't know whether I actually did enjoy what came next, but of course we did get Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz, which was meant to be the match at SummerSlam before The Miz tampered with his contract and put Goldberg in that position as well. But it started with DZ coming out and the Miz was already in the ring, and he was all like, Miz, you're an asshole and I hate you, and because you made me have that match with Goldberg, now we can't have our match because I'm not able to be cleared because my ribs and my whole life is just broken after I suffered 3 awesome spears, and they were really, really good. I've been watching them for the last day. Turned out he was lying because he then jumped the Miz, but because Dolph Ziggler is just a massive chump, eventually he was locked in the figure 4 and he tapped out. And when was the last time you saw Miz tap anybody out? It was probably when he was teaming with Ric Flair, and that's a period of wrestling that none of us want to remember. Like SummerSlam, Dolph then cut a promo on the floor saying that he's the best and Maurice is a better wrestler than The Miz. And as he was saying these words, The Miz just snuck up behind him and gave him a skull-crushing finale. But look, this was just an entertaining segment, I suppose. The fans loved it. They were all going crazy. It did no harm. It did no foul. Give it up. Becky Lynch then cut kind of a good promo because she was meant to do an interview, but instead she just took the microphone and she looked right down the lens I'm doing now, and she said, "Listen, Natty, while I respect you because you came at me, you're still lost. And if anybody else does come at me, you will lose too. I'm the man, I'm the champ, I'm a redhead, I'm Irish." She didn't say any of that stuff, but that was her point. And look, she just came across like she was aggressive and like she was in control. Good. Everything with Elias. Well, that didn't really work now, did it? Down. He was doing his usual stick, complaining that every time he tries to play a concept, but somebody interrupts him. So this time he said, "I'm going to count you down and then you can just interrupt me." When he did do that and no one appeared, he went to do his concert. Then he got interrupted by Ricochet. It led to a match and Ricochet beat him pretty quickly. And that was that. And although we did clear up the whole Ricochet OC thing later in the show, what the hell happened to the whole Elias and Chad Gable thing? Because the last thing I remember is that Chad Gable was being called a child by Elias, but apparently Chad Gable doesn't care. That's what I'm being told in the world of kayfabe. He got called that and just thought to himself, "I'm going to let it go. I don't need to mess with Elias. I'm just going to push it over here." Also, I'm going to get heat for this in the comments. People go, "Argh." Anyone else think that the Elias stuff is slowly getting a bit old and maybe we need to shake it up? Just a thought. Just throwing it out there. You tell me. This also did end with a surprise roll-up, as always, and Elias rightfully pointed out his shoulder was off the mat, but that didn't really go anywhere. So either we're going to continue a Ricochet-Elias feud, or this was a mistake, and WWE just decided to address it. You are not going to believe I said this either, but Andrade versus Rey Mysterio in a 2 out of 3 falls match? I'm going to give it an up. Now, the surprise with that comes in the fact that Andrade absolutely whipped his ass. I mean, he was 1-0 up within about 30 seconds after Zelina Vega held Rey's foot to the match. And then 5 minutes later, Andrade slammed him with a hammerlock DDT. 1, 2, 3, 2-0. Beat the hero, the legend, the luchador, as if he was a piece of paper. And no, I don't agree that we should be treating Rey like this. I kind of feel the story is meant to be that, oh, he used to be so good, but now he's old and he's crap, even though he's not. We can't see his face anyway. He's wearing a mask, so his age is irrelevant. But it has started to make Andrade look like a genuine threat. And if WWE capitalizes on that, and that's a big maybe, underline it, he can become a top star. And I always say if you're going to push someone, you've got to push them to the moon. Rey Mysterio was clearly in between Andrade and the moon, and he just stormed right through him. Can't be too upset with that, even though I'm a little bit worried what WWE are doing with Rey, because we had a promo after this when, you know, he was all like, "Oh, I've never lost 2 falls in a row in my life, but my family. And Charlie Caruso was like, "Are you trying to tell me something?" It was really awkward. It was really weird. And Rey was just like, "Oh, my family. I don't know what that was. We'll find out. I don't know what we were doing with a Steve Austin Skype interview. I mean, that even sounds awful. In principle, doubly so because we were using Skype, and I'm surprised that halfway through, the microphone just didn't stop working, and Skype went, "Oh, you've got an update," and it just cancelled all your calls. Down. It literally went like this, though. "Hi, Steve. Michael Cole here. What did you think last night of Seth Rollins?" And Steve was all like, "I thought Seth Rollins did a really good job. I'm proud of the kid." And Michael Cole went, "Thanks, Steve." Pointless. I know we only did this to promote Austin's new show that was happening after Raw, but surely we could have come up with a better idea than this. More silliness with the Street Profits as well, as Dawkins was all passed out because he drunk too much at the SummerSlam after party. And Montez Ford was freaking out because he realized they were live on TV. They were just here to promote that later on, the women's tag team titles are going to be on the line. Which they are. It was then Drew McIntyre versus Cedric Alexander, and it was just great because it just was up. Played to each other's strengths, with Drew just being a crazy, aggressive Scottish psychopath and Cedric Alexander flying around the place. And there was this really cool moment where Cedric was playing possum and he rolled Drew McIntyre up, and you thought he was going to get the surprise 1, 2, 3, especially in WWE, because the surprise roll-up is the most devastating move they have. It usually always wins. It was also a badass Spanish fly, but all of this just pissed off McIntyre, and it pissed him off so much he hit Cedric with such a devastating Claymore kick, it could be the best one we have seen to date. That did seal the deal, as it should have done. If you have a finish like that, and I see it with my eyes, and it doesn't just end a dude, something has gone completely wrong. I imagine that's probably the end of this program, but still, Cedric Alexander looked good. At least he's been able to do something. And once again, Drew McIntyre looked like an absolute maniac. We got to see a Team OC meeting after this, and AJ Styles was just saying how he is going to beat Seth Rollins later. And also, it's not fair because Rollins has had multiple matches against Brock Lesnar and AJ Styles only got one. He then called Gallows and Anderson mother lovers, which ties into his earlier promo where he said that like wives and mums or something just want to bang people in the OC. I mean, that's what he was insinuating. I'm not gonna lie, all of it made me laugh because it was just so strange. Bobby Roode then beat No Way Jose in about as long as it took me to say that sentence, and Paul Heyman was trying to do an interview, but he couldn't because he was so flustered and he was so flabbergasted and he was so upset because he had learned that Brock Lesnar was not going to get a championship rematch. Just there, that's what happened. We then had a lot of strange 24/7 title nonsense, and this is the first week in a long time where it kind of felt like WWE couldn't come up with a strong idea, but it still entertained me, so it still gets it up. It was meant to be the Revival versus the Lucha House Party, but it never really got started because they were interrupted by the running around 24/7 pack. Carmella tripped up Drake Maverick to stop him getting to Truth, but unfortunately he shouldn't have got in the ring because as soon as he did, Dash and Dawson hit him with the heart attack. They pinned him at the same time, and yeah, Dash and Dawson, the Revival, became your, I guess, dual 24/7 champion. This lasted all of a minute when Kalisto attacked both of them, and then Carmella was back and she was dragging R-Truth's corpse over them, so he was now the champion again. And after he had legged it backstage, he wasn't ready for Elias, of all people, who had a guitar. He smacked him with a guitar, he pinned Truth, and that's how all of this ended. Elias is your brand new 24/7 champion. Not sure any of us saw that coming, but changes like this are good. We just can't keep doing the same thing each week and every week. And look, I just said earlier, Elias needed something different. I would argue the 24/7 championship needs something different too. Put your hands together and you've solved your own problem. Raw then began its third hour and it just blew up in the best possible way. I like this stuff, giving it up. It began with Natty Neidhart coming to the ring in her homeland of Canada and thanking Becky Lynch for giving her the opportunity, although she is quite sad now because she's got a broken arm or a broken wrist or a broken something from the disarmer. And then she then started to talk about her father, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, who passed away last year. And as she was doing this, Sasha Banks interrupted and of course made her return to the WWE. Let's not talk about all the shenanigans that went on. Let's just focus on this. She pretended to be Natty's friend before she absolutely kicked the crap out of her, and she even took off her hair to reveal brand new hair. And no, I am not making that up. She had like her traditional purple hair that turned out to be a wig, and now that she has gone heel, which she absolutely has, she now has blue hair, and I like it. I enjoy this traffic-like system when it comes to my characters. I can look at them and go, oh, they're an amber light. That means they're a tweener, they're a green, they're a face, and they're red, they're a heel. That doesn't work, but you take my point. I'm just saying it was interesting. The crowd went absolutely ballistic for this, probably because they know that Sasha Banks is better as a heel, and we haven't seen that on the main roster because no one has ever given her the opportunity. And they went even more nuts when Becky Lynch came out to try and get some revenge on Sasha, but she failed. And by the end of this, Sasha Banks was just waylaying Becky Lynch with a chair and the crowd were booing her, so this angle served its perfectly. This is exactly the type of program the man needs as well, and it can probably be eked out till the end of the year if you're smart with it. And the last question you've got to ask yourself is, which side are you on? It's red versus blue. Let them fight. Viking Raiders then won in another squash match. Okay, thanks. Isn't it a surprise as well that when you actually feature the women's tag team titles, you may actually get people to invest? Give it up. I will never understand until the day I die why Kairi Sane and Asuka aren't in singles competition, given they're two of the best singles wrestlers on the entire roster. But look, that's one of the reasons this match was so good, because they are amazing at what they do, so they carried this. But the relationship between Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss brings in your sports entertainment, and they put together a fun little ditty of a contest, which ended when Kairi Sane once again got smashed with a Twisted Bliss by Alexa Bliss. They held on to their championships. But look, it was fine. It was all right. It's not the greatest thing you've ever seen. It certainly wasn't the worst. And hopefully we can just keep having these titles on television and make them mean something. Also, please, WWE, please. Christmas is soon. It's not, but it's soon, kinda, but it isn't. Also, I'm Jewish, but still, it's not the point. Break up Kairi Sane and Asuka and just put them back into singles matches. That's all I want. I'm not asking too much. They're really good. Another down the lens promo by Seth Rollins, who said that AJ Styles can shut his mouth because not only will he win later, but he has beaten Brock Lesnar more times than AJ Styles. And I like how this feud has already descended into, well, I've beaten Brock more than you, which means I'm better than you. That is the equivalent of my dad is harder than your dad. And if you are Brock Lesnar's son, 100% your dad is the hardest. I just want to get that out there. A massive up now, though, because as of next week on Raw, the King of the Ring is returning. How many times have I come on here and said I miss tournaments in WWE, and I specifically miss the King of the Ring? If we treat this in the way that it needs to be treated, as in give it some serious moxie, it will be great, and it's going to go down. Massage hands are back, and it's going to go down over the next few weeks, so they ain't rushing it. I'm excited. Please, please, please make this good. Give it up. It was then Styles versus Rollins, and as good as the in-ring portion of this was, kind of felt like it was a bit of a waste. Down. Again, in terms of in-ring action, this was fantastic because who is better than these two? And I know you're already in the comments saying, well, this person's better and that person's better, but that's not what I'm trying to say. My point was, at one point, Gallows and Anderson got kicked out of there because they kept interfering, so they just went, nah, we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to get in the ring and we're just going to beat up Seth Rollins, and they caused the DQ. That was after around about 10 minutes, and as always, my question is, guys, if you were going to do this, just do it after 10 seconds. Why did we have to go 10 minutes? It also meant 3 hours worth of build, because it was the very first thing that we saw on the show, ended in a disqualification. That is a little bit lackluster. The surprise factor was that after the OC had started their beatdown on Seth Rollins, Ricochet came out to make the save, and that made sense because it means he will be continuing his feud with AJ Styles, I presume. But when that didn't work, we heard "Brah!" And Braun Strowman was also coming out to try and help things. He absolutely destroyed everybody before he handed the Universal title to Seth Rollins as if to say, look, I'm not a bad guy, I'm your friend, or at least for now. Anyway, and I can already see a bunch of 6-man tag team matches in our future. Of course, it'll be Seth, Braun, and Ricochet taking on the OC. And while I think that is all right, and you'll probably get some form of enjoyment out of it, I really wanted Seth Rollins to have a proper, like, you could see which direction he was going in. I wanted to have a proper feud, and I wanted that to be revealed here on Raw, and we didn't get it. Look, if it is going to be Braun Strowman, why couldn't Braun Strowman have just twatted him right in the face after he had passed in the title? You don't have to say that's like a bad guy turn. He's Braun Strowman. He's just a big guy. His whole character, his whole gimmick is, I'm a big dude. Just think that would have been more interesting. Instead, I don't really know in what direction Seth's heading, and given that the next pay-per-view is Clash of Champions, maybe they are going to do the 6-man tag there. I don't know. I mean, it was fun. It was good to watch. But it didn't really make me want to turn into next week. I think that's what WWE needs to be doing right now. Not sure what this face is. Which brings us to the end of Raw. And while it was a very easy to watch show, again, it just lacked a little bit of football to get you excited about what is to come. But there's a spinning arrow. It is going to get an up because, like, it wasn't a disaster of a show, which we have seen in the past. But now I'm done with it, and I'm done with this. I don't think I'll be talking about it much. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's episode of Raw. Like, share, and subscribe. Head on to WhatCulture.com, read yourself some articles, follow WhatCulture on Twitter, WhatCulture WWE. Watch more videos here on WhatCulture Wrestling. My name is Simon from WhatCulture. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you go back and watch SummerSlam Ups and Downs if you haven't already. And I'll see you in around about 24 hours if you're watching this when it first goes live, when we up those downs for SmackDown.